No one thinks that the biggest blows will come from the family. All my life I believed that my family was the home front, the ones who would always have my back. And then I buried my father, and I learned that I was just an obstacle on the way to cash for my family. The sun did not shine that day. It was just lying in the sky, as if someone had nailed it down. It was stuffy, even though it was November. There were 3 of us standing in the cemetery, me, May, and Ronnie, and a couple of other strangers I hadn't seen in person. The priest was mumbling words I couldn't hear. The only sound in my ears was my father's voice from the past. Son, the main thing is not to be disappointed in your own people. I did not know then that I would be disappointed in them, and as a child my father and I were building a barn. I was small, about 10 years old. He said, "This house is yours. I'm building it for you. May goes to the city, Ronnie goes to his business, and you stay here. This is your land." I didn't understand anything at the time, and now I remember every word like it was yesterday. And you know how it is, first they promise, and then they keep silent, as if they hadn't said anything. At the funeral, May kept her phone in her hand the whole time. She was texting with someone, giggling. Ronnie stood aside, silent. On the way home, I asked Herg, "Are you taking pictures of the coffin for Instagram?" She shrugged her shoulders and said, "I have important things to do. Harold. I'm sorry, but this is no time for moralizing." And I felt something in my chest, important business. At our father's funeral, after the cemetery, I returned to my parents' house. Alone, they left May and her husband, Ronnie in his brand new Ford, which I had never seen before. The house was cold. I opened the closet. My father's old jacket was still hanging. It smelled like smoke, woods, and something else, peace. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, looked at the stool where he sat every day, and thought, is this it? The next morning I called the notary because even before he died, Dad had said, "Everything is formalized, don't worry, the inheritance is yours." And the notary said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Ivan A. Blake, but I don't have your name in the updated will." I sat down. What updated will? The last document is from June of this year. It lists only Mrs. May Wilson and Mr. Ronald Blake. There must be some mistake, and I'm afraid not. I can send you a copy. I didn't sleep that night. Everything was going through my head. My father said he was leaving everything to me. Then why are they in the document? And why hadn't I even heard about this updated will? In the morning I called May. She answered calmly, "Harold, don't start. Dad changed everything back in the summer. It's not our fault he didn't tell you. Do you realize what you're saying?" I realized that Dad was right. Oh no, and you had a chance to live like a man, not lie around in your Texas. He was just tired of dragging you around. I hung up the phone. For the first time in my life, I wanted to scream. Not because I was losing money, but because I was betrayed by those with whom I was eating from the same plate. We shared 4 eggs among 3 of us when my mother got sick. I dug beets with them. And now they sit in my father's chair and say that they are tired of pulling me. I took an old box of documents. I started looking for the original will, the one that my father showed me once. But it was empty. If I didn't know it existed, I would have thought it was a fiction. All I found was a newspaper clipping, an article about the 3 of us. Farmer with 3 children is the future generation of Texas. I laughed, bitterly. Something told me that this was only the beginning. I did not know how dirty this game would be. But I felt that there would be no truth until I got out of this swamp myself. Alone. Because everyone who was supposed to be there for me had long since gone to the other side. And so, sitting in my father's old chair, I saw a letter. An unopened envelope, no return address, and it had my handwriting on it. Even though I never wrote it, that letter was lying right in front of me. My handwriting was on it, and the problem is that I didn't write it. And I definitely didn't send it. The envelope was yellowed, like an old newspaper. On it was an inscription, "Open after death." Everything was in capital letters, and in my handwriting. But I don't remember writing anything like that. My hands were shaking as I took off the paper flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. And one line, "They did it. Don't trust them." Dad's signature. My heart was pounding out a rhythm like a rock concert. They did it. Who is they? And what exactly did they do? I sat in my father's chair as if in a strange room. The walls were like a prison. It thy words cut Meg, don't trust them. It meant that he knew something, and he was afraid. But why didn't he say anything? I kept turning everything over in my head. What if someone planted it? Or a butt who'd forged Dad's signature so precisely? And most importantly, why? And why does it look like I wrote it myself? I went to his office, a small room near the kitchen. I opened the desk drawer and found it empty. It should have been filling. Dad was a pedant. He kept every receipt, every prescription, every electric bill for the last 30 years. Now it's empty. There's not even any dust. It as if someone had gone through and wiped up everything they could. I decided to go to Mr. Henry, my neighbor. He's in his 70s, but he remembers everything like an archive. "Henry, did you see anyone at the house in the summer?" He did. "Did anyone come by except the nurse?" He took off his hat, sighing. "I did. Ronnie and May came to visit. They hung around for 3 days. They said they were helping. But I saw them pulling out boxes. Full of boxes. They weren't helping. They were taking something away. And Dad, he was weak then. And angry. Once he threw May out of the house. He said, 'If you touch my papers again, I'll curse you.' Is that what a family is? To a son and daughter who go through papers before the body is even cold." I couldn't breathe with anger. But I had to hold on. If my father left a clue, then there was something important still there. I returned home and started rummaging everywhere. Behind the radiator, under the carpet, in the old chest. Finally, I found a small key. It looked like a safe key. Or maybe from my father's old safe box, which he used to hide in the basement behind the firewood. I ran down there, and there it was, dusty and rusty, but quite real. I opened it. There was an envelope inside, and another one. There was also a cassette, an old VHS, and a notebook. The envelope reads, "For Harold, in case something goes wrong." The envelope contained another letter. This time it was longer. "Son, if you're reading this, it means that everything went wrong. I had planned to leave everything to you, but May and Ronnie made me change my will. I was sick. They pressured me, intimidated me, threatened me. They said they would leave me in a nursing home if I didn't sign over my property. I signed it because I was afraid. I'm sorry. But I made a copy of the real will. It's in the notebook. The end. One more thing, watch the tape." I sat there as if I had been hit on the head. Not with anger. It was pity. He was still trying. Dad believed to the last that I would figure it out, and I didn't come in time. I thought there was still time. Like all of us until it's too late. I found an old tape recorder in the garage, connected it to the TV. I pressed play. The image was shaking. Dad was sitting in the kitchen, wearing the same shirt we buried him in. His voice was faint but clear. "Harold, if you're seeing this, it means I can't protect you anymore. May and Ronnie, they betrayed me. But I left a real will in a safe deposit box at First Union. The code word is Geronimo. Get in there, fight them, and don't trust them." I stared at the screen as if it were a window to another life. And then the screen went black. And the sound of a message cut through the silence. From May, "Don't you dare dig any further. You'll be sorry. They knew I was going to the bank. But how did they get there first?" The morning was gloomy and heavy. It seemed that the sky also felt that I was going to get into something where it was better not to poke my nose. I put on my father's old jacket, the one he wore to court in '92. I shoved my notebook, cassette, and key into my bag. And he headed for the First Union Bank. The bank stood on the corner, as always, indifferent and cold, like a monument to bureaucracy. I went inside and there was almost no line. I walked up to the receptionist, trying to look confident. "Good afternoon. I need to access a safe deposit box under the name Harold Blaine, number 112. The code word is Geronimo. Enough, the woman behind the counter looked up, as if she had never heard of anyone coming in for anything real. "Excuse me, number 112, she asked again. "Yes. There is no active safe with that number in the system." There was. But it was closed a week ago. I froze. My heart jumped somewhere in my stomach. "Who closed it? Let me see." She froze for a moment and then pressed something else. "I'm sorry, but I can't disclose that information." "Oh, it concerns my father. He's dead. I am the heir. I have the vita will." "I understand, but without legal permission." "They've already taken everything, haven't they?" I burst out. "They got here first. They stole everything." "Are you accomplices or what?" People in the line started looking around. I could hear the bank manager approaching with a smile that really screamed, "Get out before I call the cops." "Mr. Blaine," he said quietly, "you're agitated. Please, let's talk in my office." I followed him in. He closed the door and sat down across from me. "You say you have documents." I pulled out my notebook and my father's letter. The manager read it carefully. "This is serious." "But Mr. Blaine." He looked out the window, as if to check if we were being eavesdropped on. "If these documents are genuine, they contradict the data in our system. There's something strange here." "What is it?" Safe deposit box 112 was locked by a power of attorney." The signatures matched. Everything looked legitimate. But I remember this guy. He came in with a woman, a younger couple. They said they were missing Blaine's children, and they showed me a notarized power of attorney. And you didn't suspect anything. Honestly, I see cases like this every day. But now that I see this letter, and if you want, I can unofficially try to find copies of the documents that were in the safe. But it will take a day or two. I left the bank like a drunk. Everything that was left of my father's will was gone. The papers were gone. And it seems that they did not disappear by themselves. The phone rang. "Ronnie." I didn't answer it. "He wrote, you can't prove anything. We had the papers in our hands first." "Forget it, brother." "Is he kidding?" And I decided to go to my father's old friend, a lawyer named Mr. Grayson. He was in his 80s, but he still had a mind like a razor's edge. "Harold," he said when he heard the story, "if what you say is true, you've been robbed. But it's going to be hard to prove. We'll need a copy of that will. It was in the safe. Maybe not just there. Your father was careful. He could have hidden another one. Think about it, Tug. Where did he spend most of his time? Ayold and I did. The garden, the workshop, and the old library where he hid from everyone. That evening I went to my father's library. There was dust on every book, but among them was one I remembered from my childhood, Moby Dick. And Dad always said, there is a whole life hidden there. I picked up the book. It was heavier than it should have been. I opened it up. There was a cavity inside, and another envelope. I opened it. There was a will. It was completely different from the one that was read at the funeral. And it began with the words, "I, Frank Blaine, in my right mind, give all my property to my son Harold, the only person I trust." I fell back into my chair. But at the same moment there was a loud knock on the door. I went to the door. There was no one there, only a piece of paper under my feet. On it was a black markered, "You're digging deep, Harold. The watchmen are awake." She knew everything, but she was silent. She didn't even blink when I told her I had been robbed. I returned home holding that will in my hands like a relic. It was my trump card, my proof. And at the same time, it was a verdict on my family. But before I ran to the lawyer with it, I decided to talk to May. May is my aunt, my father's younger sister. Actually lives across the street in the same house where my dad and I have spent every Christmas for the past 30 years. She was like a mom to me, the one I never had. I knocked. Her house always smelled of cinnamon, lemon tea, and the light scent of old books. "Harold," she said, opening the door, "I knew you'd come. You did. Your father left something for you. But I was afraid, and I didn't know when. What was it?" She silently invited me inside. We sat down in the kitchen. She brought tea. I put the will on the table. I found it in Moby Dick. He was always a romantic. She smiled. And he hid it so that only you would find it. And you. You knew I'd been robbed. May sighed. I knew, but I didn't know how to tell you. Ronnie came to see me after the funeral. He said that Dad had left everything to them, that they'd just taken what was theirs. They'd forged the power of attorney. I suspected, but I had no proof, and I was afraid. Because Ronnie what? He's not the man you remember. He's been different since Dad died. He came to me in the middle of the night. He told me to stay out of it. That everything was already decided. He had a key. I don't know how. And his eyes were cold. I was afraid, Harold, I'm 70. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't want to hurt you. I knew you'd get angry, and they're brutal. They'll go all the way. She opened a drawer and took out a small box. As she opened it. What is it? I asked. The camera on the porch. The video from that night. When Ronnie and Judith took something big out of Dad's house. In a sheet, they said. This is all that's left. I picked up the flash drive like a bullet in my hands. If you go to the police. May looked me straight in the eye. They will start digging, and these people have connections. I heard that Judith is seeing the local prosecutor. Unofficially, I leaned back in my chair. This was no longer just a family conflict. This was the system. And you, I asked, why now? Because I love you, and I can't keep silent anymore. He trusted you. Always. And you have to prove you were worth it. May walked me to the door, her hands shaking. If anything happens, go to Miss Golden. She knows everything. Dad left her something, too. But she's as silent as I am. I'll find her, Inudu and Harold. She stopped me in my tracks. They're afraid of you, and they're not afraid of the will. It's the truth. I left the house. The flash drive in my pocket burned like a coal. May closed the door. And I suddenly remembered the door mat in front of her house always lay flat. Now it was on the side. I picked it up. There was a note underneath. Silence is gold. But even gold melts when it's hot. I looked around. There was nothing. But someone was there. Someone was watching. A long time ago. When you're in your 60s and the only lawyer who responds to your message is a guy with a photo of himself wearing a Santa Claus hat and a sign that says, everything is legal. You know things are bad. The flash drive from May was lying in front of me like a last chance. But where to go with it? To the police. To a lawyer. Lawyers are expensive. I didn't have a dime. Ronnie and Judith had cleaned out all the accounts. I was left with a mug of coffee, an old laptop, and insomnia. I went to Facebook, because where else do you go when your life is falling apart? There, among the photos of cats and advertisements for Miracle Joint Gel. I came across a post, looking for the truth. I can help you. I work without prepayment. I have 10 years of experience, directly to the messenger. I wrote. I didn't expect him to answer. I'm Harold. I've been robbed. My family have proof. I'm looking for a lawyer. 5 minutes later, I get an answer. Hello, Harold. I'm Leo. I'm a lawyer. What exactly happened? I didn't believe it. But who it could have been a crook? But who isn't a scammer nowadays? We wrote him off. I sent him a photo of the will, a video from a flash drive, and told him everything about my brothers and Aunt May. Leo offered to call me, and I opened a video call. He was wearing a t-shirt with a bookus and a dog behind him. He looked about 35, chewing on a lollipop. Harold, I can see that you're in deep shit. But you're not the first. You're sure you're a lawyer. They're not a plumber. Although, it depends. There are leaking pipes everywhere, but they're not plumbing pipes, they're human pipes. Or do you work for free? At first, yes. Then we'll share if we win. I'm not a fool, but I'm not a dog either. Sometimes it's cooler to help than to make money. Leah got down to business. He checked the documents. Harold, you have a very interesting case. This will is genuine. But the power of attorney that Ronnie and Judith are referring to was executed on Sunday, and the notary who notarized it died last year. What? Yes, someone stupidly used his seal. What if they find out we're digging? No, they already know. I saw your brother on TikTok yesterday. He was telling me how he was fighting for his inheritance against an ungrateful relative. Comments, hang in there, Ron, and family is the worst. Am I being made out to be a monster? Are welcome to the new reality. But we will respond. Leo created a page called Harold's Truth. He posted a short explanatory video, added part of the video from the flash drive, and told the story. Within a week, he had 50,000 views. The comments exploded. Some people sympathized. Others wrote that it was all a setup. Harold, a journalist, approached me. She wants to do a story, and a respected lawyer has offered to support us. Or is it all through Facebook? It doesn't matter where now. The important thing is that we are not alone. In the evening, I received a call. The number is unknown. If you open your mouth again, you'll be sorry. This isn't a joke, Harold. Who is it? Someone who knows where you live? I shut up. I looked out the window. It was dark, but someone was there. I called Leo. They're threatening. But I knew this would happen. But we keep going. You're not alone, I'm with you. And so is your entire Facebook audience. Remember, the truth is on our side. The next morning I woke up and there was another note in my mailbox. If you don't stop, you will be the next to disappear. On the back was a photo of my house. It was taken at night. Signed with one word, be silent. Do you know what's worse than the betrayal of your family? It's when you finally find the strength to go to court and they don't even let you finish. And the judge, looking over the top of his glasses, has long since drawn his conclusions, and definitely not in your favor. The trial was scheduled for Monday. 9 in the morning. I was up all night. Leo, my lawyer from Facebook, was nervous, but he was holding up. He even bought a new shirt. I was shaking like a leaf in the fall. We arrived early. Arani, Judith, and their lawyer were standing in front of the entrance, a pretentious guy with a gold watch and the face of a man who always wins. Judith wore a suit like a TV show and even matched her bag. And Arani was stubbing out his cigarette and trying to look me and look away. I didn't look, not this time. The judge was a woman, about 60 years old. She looked like a strict teacher who had heard and seen everything. I got the impression that she wanted to close as soon as possible. They started with the formalities. Then their lawyer took the floor. Your Honor, we will provide documents proving that the inheritance was transferred legally. Unfortunately, my brother is emotionally unstable, which prevents him from objectively assessing the situation. We ask you to stop this unjustified persecution. Thank you, the judge said. Leo stood up. Your Honor, we have evidence. A flash drive with a video of my late father voicing his will, a will that was officially executed. Also, the power of attorney used by the defendants is fake. It was signed on a day when the notary was already dead. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any evidence? Yes. Here's a copy of the official certificate from the database. She looked at it. She pursed her lips. I will send it for verification. Go on, in the meantime, no emotions. Go on. May didn't show up. No one could find her. I suspected Judith had covered her tracks. My aunt disappeared like smoke. Harold, the judge said, you claim that excluded from the inheritance illegally. My father clearly said that everything was divided equally, and in the new document everything is for them only. I never signed anything. And, how do you explain this photo? An old photo of me and Ronnie appeared on the screen. We are shaking hands. The caption reads, peace and harmony. Everything is as we agreed. I gritted my teeth. It was after the funeral. They hadn't shown me the papers yet. We were just talking. This is out of context. The judge shook her head skeptically. Your Honor, Harold was always a difficult man. My father often complained about his irresponsibility. We have letters in which he asked us to take care of everything because he was afraid Harold wouldn't be able to handle it. When were these letters written? A few days before his death. And how did he ask? Orally. And we documented his words. I could hardly contain my laughter. Your Honor, this is nonsense. I have a flash drive. My father personally says how everything will happen. This flash drive is in doubt. Until there is a technical examination, it is not evidence. I'm out of control. And what do I do? I've been robbed. I'm left with nothing. And you don't even want to listen. The judge raised her hand. One more word in that tone, and I'll stop the hearing. Leo squeezed my shoulder. Hold on. We're not finished. The judge took a break. After the break, she returned with news. We received a preliminary answer from the forensic examination about the notary's signature. Indeed, it is not his signature. The room froze. So, we're going to schedule an additional investigation. The next meeting is in a month. And for the duration of the investigation, we're freezing all of the deceased's assets. Ronnie and Judith turned pale, and I saw fear in their eyes for the first time. Leo and I went outside. He lit a cigarette. This is just the beginning. Now they're going to go all in. Are you ready? I looked at him. For the first time in a long time, yes. Oh, and I had another note in my pocket. You're not playing by the right rules. Next time, no warning. She disappeared from my life 10 years ago. Suddenly, without a word, without a note. And now she's standing on my doorstep, where in the middle of the night, wearing the coat I once gave her, and in her eyes something I hadn't seen even in court. Fear. That evening I drank tea and watched old VHS videos from when my father taught me how to change spark plugs in a Ford. My soul was aching, and suddenly a knock. Loud, annoying, like in a horror movie. I opened the door and froze. Hey, Lisa. She didn't say anything. She just stepped inside, as if the war between us had never happened. We don't have much time, she whispered. I put the cup down. My heart was pounding like a schoolboy on a first date, and at the same time I was angry. She was the one who ran away. What are you doing here? I finally asked. I know who's behind all this, Harold, and you won't believe how I found out. We sat down. She took off her coat. The same eyes, a little tired. The same gestures as she fixed her hair. Everything had changed and nothing had changed. Do you remember my cousin Carl? The one who used to live in Vegas. The one who traded crypto. He works with private investigations now. A few weeks ago, he was approached to check out a deal. And you know whose name came up? Mine, and Ronnie's, and Judith's. And even the name of the notary. The one who, as it turned out, had died the day before he signed the documents. I listened, and everything in me shrank. Not because I was scared, but because it was getting bigger. It was no longer just a family quarrel. This is a conspiracy. A fraud. And I'm the target. Carl sent me copies of all the data. They've been using your name to pull off several other deals. Real estate accounts. You don't even know what you already have. I didn't say anything. As she continued. And they think you're a fool. They are convinced that you will give up. But you're not. And I know why they are so afraid, because you have something they want. The will. The original. I lost it. No. You just don't know it's in a bank vault. And your name is on it. Your father left everything to you because he knew the rest of us were predators. We were silent. Why did you leave then, Lisa? She looked down. Because I couldn't take it anymore. Your father, he was difficult. And you were always between him and me. I couldn't stand this triangle. But then I regretted it. And when Carl sent me those documents, I knew I had to come. And now you suddenly care. I never cared about you, Harold. I was just scared. I made tea. We sat and drank in silence, just like we used to. Only now without hope, but with experience. You realize they won't stop, don't you? They've already ordered surveillance. Carl confirmed it. I saw it. There was a car outside the house yesterday. The same one that was outside the courthouse. You have to be careful and find that safe. I have the key. Your father gave it to me before we left. He said, give it to him when the time comes. Why didn't you give it to me earlier? Because I didn't know if I could. And only now I realized that I had to. I took the key. It was small, silver, and heavy like memories. I'll go to the bank tomorrow. If it still exists. It does, Lisa said. And they know about it too. But they don't know that you already know. I looked at her. Will you stay the night? She nodded silently. And I lay in bed and thought, why is life so circular? Why do those who left come back just when everything is falling apart? And what if she is also playing her own game? I don't use TikTok. I've never had a need to. But it was there that I saw my brother for the first time in many months. In a suit. With a glass of champagne. And the caption under the video, "Life after I won everything." I scrolled through the video again and again, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't believe it. It was Ronnie, my brother, who swore in court that he was barely making ends meet. And now he is on the air, laughing with influencers, telling how he successfully invested in real estate. The comments contain hundreds of likes, shares, hearts, hashtags like a success, a afterpower, a heritage, and not a word about me. I was sitting in the kitchen, at night in silence. Lisa was sleeping in the guest room. And I was sitting there with my phone in my hands, feeling like I had been stolen again. This time, not money. It was the truth. I remembered how he was almost crying in court. He talked about debts, medical bills, how hard it was for him without help. And here he was on a yacht, with white teeth and a watch that cost more than my house. You need to see this, I said as soon as she woke up. What's going on? It's Ronnie. He's shouting TikToks, and he's a winner. He says he's won everything, and it's like he's the one who did it. She looked at it. And she was silent. It's more than just vanity. It's a signal. He wants you to see. He wants you to give up, and he wants me to get angry and make a mistake. Don't do that. What if we go to TikTok too? I asked, not believing what I was saying. You're going to TikTok? Why not? If he's there, why not show him the other side? Maybe there is someone there who saw something. Someone who knows more. People on the internet can be more attentive than the police. Okay. But no dancing. She smiled. We made a short video. Right from the kitchen. I was sitting in an old sweater, holding copies of documents and saying, "This is my brother. This is me. And this is a story about how someone took everything from me. But I didn't break. If you know anything, write to me." We posted this video and went to have tea. The next morning, it had 1 million views. People wrote. I saw him in Florida. He was buying a plot in Nevada. His girlfriend is a former lawyer. Someone even sent a screenshot from his other account under a different name. Lisa scrolled through the comments, and I wrote everything down in my notebook. And suddenly there was one post. He asked me if he could withdraw money from the account in your name. My name is Harold Brooks. I work at a bank in Las Vegas. This is no joke, I said. He wasn't just lying. He was trying to withdraw my money. And if we can find out when, it could be evidence in court. Forgery of a signature. Attempted fraud. But we have to act fast, because he feels that I'm up to something. Harold. It's Becky. I used to work for your father as a nurse. I read in the comments that you're looking for the truth. I saw Ronnie sign something when your dad was still alive. But Dad didn't look conscious. And after that I didn't work there anymore. Can you put this on the record? If you need to, yes. I hung up the phone and looked at Lisa. We have a line of defense. People are our witnesses. The internet is our archive. But Ronnie already knows you're on to him. He's going to get nervous. All the better. Nervous people make mistakes. And I only need one. We sat in silence. The phone was still glowing with new messages. Everyone wanted to know how it would end. I sighed. It hadn't really started yet. I thought I knew who my real enemy was. I thought it was my brother. But the real threat was sitting quietly right under my nose. And it was silent. And it all started when I received another anonymous message on TikTok. There was one short sentence, "Ask Linda." No signature, no explanation. Linda is Ronnie's daughter. My niece, always quiet, always in the background. When at her father's funeral, she barely looked up. I hadn't seen her for years. But now this mysterious message haunted me. I remembered Linda sitting next to Ronnie in court. She was downcast, not responding to anything, and in it seemed like she was there just for the sake of formality. But now, why would anyone want me to ask her? What does she know? I decided to take a chance. I found her Facebook profile old, almost empty. There was one photo of her in her 20s. By now she should have been her 30s. I wrote a short message, "Linda, I need your help. It's important." There was no response for a long time. And then a short one, "Where and when?" We agreed on a coffee shop on the outskirts of the city, a small place where even the waiters don't listen to you. She came in jeans and an old jacket. She was as thin as a cane and looked like the whole world was a burden on her shoulders. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. "Thank you for coming," I began. She was silent. Her eyes were big, dark, and a little red. Why did they tell me to ask you?" I asked quietly. She swallowed her saliva, lowered her head. "Because I saw," she whispered. "What exactly?" "How they made my grandfather sign the papers. I felt like I was punched in the stomach." "Ronnie?" I asked. She nodded. "And my mom, too. They came a few weeks before he died. They brought a friend, a lawyer. And my grandfather was, well, he didn't understand much. He didn't recognize me." Linda spoke in a quiet, steady voice, as if she had already lived through this a long time ago. "They said it was necessary for peace of mind, that everything was right. My mother held my grandfather's hand and forced him to sign. He could barely hold the pen. I sat clutching my coffee cup. My fingers were shaking. "Why didn't you say anything?" Linda lowered her head even lower. I was threatened. My mom said that if I said anything, they would leave me without money, no help. And I had just gotten my first job. I was weak. I felt angry, but not at Linda. At the whole system of fear that Ronnie and his wife had built. They knew who they could intimidate. "Can you testify?" I asked quietly. She was silent for a long time. "If I do, I won't have a family anymore." You don't have a real family anymore, Linda," I said softly. She looked up, and there, for the first time in a long time, I saw something new: determination. "I'll help," she whispered. I reached across the table and held out my hand to her. "You will not be alone." When I returned home, there was hope in my pocket. It was small, fragile, but it was real. Linda could be the link that would unite all the evidence against Ronnie. She could tell the court what someone other than me had seen. But I knew it wasn't over. Because those who lose everything start fighting not for money. They start fighting for themselves. And that's when they become really dangerous. All my life I thought that the worst thing was losing money. But it turned out that the loss of reality is much worse. When you are no longer sure if what you see is real. This was the case with this lawyer. After talking to Linda, I decided to go through all the documents I had managed to get again. What was left after the redistribution of the inheritance. And on one sheet where the signature of the official lawyer was placed, I saw a familiar name, Larry Williams. It seemed like nothing special. But I had seen this name before. Not in the case, but in a post in the group Fraud in our city. A man wrote that under this name someone was introducing himself as a lawyer, although in fact he did not have a license. I didn't waste any time. I called the State Bar Association. They confirmed that there was Larry Williams in the registry. He never existed. No lawyer with that name had the right to work in the United States. I felt a wave of adrenaline. This is not just a fraud, it's a crime. I decided to call my brother. I wanted to give him a chance to explain. But as soon as I said, "Something doesn't add up with your lawyer," he hung up. It was a sign. They were hiding something, and now I was a bone in their throat. The next day, I met with Linda again. I showed her the photo of the lawyer Ronnie had brought to his father. She looked at it and was embarrassed. He introduced himself as a family friend. I didn't even know he was a lawyer. My mom said, "It's just a witness." So they deliberately falsified the documents. The signature was put by an outsider, and they covered everything up with a legal facade. Now everything was falling into place. They didn't just deceive my old father, they forged documents and used a pseudo-lawyer to make everything look legal. I went to the address indicated in the documents. There was an abandoned building. A former cafe? No office, no sign. The neighbors said that. There hasn't been anything here for 5 years. That is, the lawyer's office is a fiction. I returned home with a feeling that the whole world was a cardboard set. I remembered an old friend, Henry. We used to work together in an insurance company. He's retired now, but he likes to dig into such cases. If this lawyer doesn't exist, then any document signed by him has no legal force, he said, even if it's already been approved by the court. If the court was provided with false information, that's another matter. This is already grounds for an appeal. But we need to act quickly. The same night someone tried to break into my garage. The hinge was torn off, and there were shoe prints in the yard. The police came, drew up a report, but did nothing serious. I realized that they wanted to intimidate me. There were no open threats yet, but the hints were clear. Together with Henry, we started collecting everything of photocopies, statements, Linda's testimony. She agreed to sign a written statement. This should be enough to start the process of revoking the will, Henry said, but I knew it would be a long game. They had already removed a lot of things. They have connections. They have money. And I have only the truth. When I looked at the photo of that lawyer, I'd suddenly remembered. I had seen this face before, a long time ago, before my father died, in a bar with Ronnie. Then he said, "This is my friend Phil." So Larry Williams is Phil. And he's not just a crook. This is an accomplice. And if we find Phil, we will have the main witness. Or the main threat. Sometimes the ending is just a pause before the storm. I thought I had already reached the limit. It turned out that everything was just beginning. Because when the truth comes out, it entails not only answers, but also new questions that no one wants to answer. I watched an old video of my father's birthday again. The same one where he is still awake, smiling, raising a glass. And next to him are Ronnie, Janet, and Phil. Yes, now I saw it clearly. It was the same lawyer. And you know what else? He was in our house when my father was healthy. That is, the plan to raid the inheritance could have been prepared long before his death. I tried to find Phil. His real name is Philip Montgomery. He used to be a real estate agent, then rear-ended himself. He has no lawyer's license, but was involved in dozens of transactions that were later recognized as fraudulent. But the problem is that the address in the database has been empty for 6 months. The phone number is out of range. The Facebook page has been deleted. It was as if it had been erased. I was sitting in the garage when the phone rang, an unknown number. Male voicing, "You're digging too deep, man. You've already lost everything. What more do you want?" "I want the truth." "And you can't handle it." And the call ended. That evening I went to see May. She was sitting in the kitchen, twirling a teaspoon in a mug, looking out the window. "May," I said, "did you know who Phil was?" She was silent for a long time, then she nodded. "He's Janet's lover. They started dating 5 years ago. Dad knew. He even wanted to cut her out of his will. And what happened? She somehow convinced him to rethink everything. A month later, he signed a new document, without any witnesses. Only with a lawyer. That explained everything. Janet and Phil were not just scammers. They were controlling my father, exerting emotional pressure, playing a game. And Ronnie must be in on the scheme too. But why didn't May say anything? I was afraid. I know I lost part of my inheritance, but I didn't want to lose the rest of the family. "May, we don't have a family anymore. There is only a deception." I decided to go to the local newspaper. The journalist, a young girl with a loud voice and sparkling eyes, was interested in the story. "You want to publish it, and I want them to stop doing this to anyone else. But if we publish it, you'll have to come out. EGA against your family. Or it's not family anymore. When the story came out, the explosion happened faster than I expected. Janet wrote an angry post. Ronnie accused me of lying. May disappeared, her number was no longer answered. But worst of all, I received a letter from the court. I was accused of defamation, obstructing the peaceful enjoyment of property, and a dozen other legal terms. But along with the letter, I received another one. The unhit was anonymous. The envelope contained a flash drive. It contained an audio recording my father's voice. Hoarse, old, but clear. They say it's my choice. But I'm not sure. I feel sick. I don't remember why I agreed, or if I agreed at all. I want Michael to know that I tried. It was a dying confession, and proof that he was under pressure. I gave the flash drive to Henry. We knew it was the key, but also a risk. Because with this recording, I was officially challenging the system, my family, the right that had been sold for money. I looked in the mirror, and I suddenly realized that I am not the same Michael I was a year ago. I don't just want justice. I want them to have no more peace. And you know what? It's not over yet. Here's what no one will tell you. The worst thing is not losing money. The worst thing is to lose yourself. And then to sit in a room where the silence is louder than the TV and think, maybe I really deserved all this. A little over a year has passed. I don't live where I used to live. I am not the person I used to be. The apartment is rented, small but clean. My daughter doesn't call anymore. My ex-wife is remarried. And my brother and sister, they are still in the same yard where we all played as children. I went to court, lost my lawyer, lost time, emotions, illusions. I won nothing but experience. And do you know what's worse? None of us won. We all lost everything. With money, but without a soul. One morning I saw him on Tick and my brother. He was laughing there, showing some car, and behind him was our old house. The comments were full of likes, hearts, beauty, respect, real man. And I'm sitting in my bathrobe, looking at my phone and thinking, why the hell is he trending? And at that moment, honestly, something in me broke, not out of anger. It was from understanding. He became a hero on social media and I became a phantom. I, who all my life considered myself decent, honest, and family-oriented, was left with nothing. And they are like the characters in a TV series. Only this series is not fiction, but my pain. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail. It had no return address. The envelope contained a copy of my will. The real one. With the date, signature, and notary. The name at the end was mine. Only there were no estates accounts or plots. There was something else there, my father's diary, and an entry. One of them is real, but not the one who screams loudly. I held the evidence in my hands again. But this time not for the court, but for myself. And what should I do with them? Should I go in the same circles again? Or finally stop? I left everything behind. My will, papers, videos, the evidence. Everything that was part of that fight. I put it in a box, sealed it, and took it to the basement. Not because of fear, but because of fatigue. And one more thing I finally realized my fight is not with them, it was with myself. Because the worst thing you can lose is the ability to love. And I almost lost it. First my family, then myself. Then those who really loved me. An old friend who invited me to go fishing. A woman who wrote me letters. I was busy fighting a war that was going nowhere. Last week I got a call from May, my sister, for the first time in a year. She didn't apologize. She just said, I know you haven't forgiven me, but if something happens to us, we are still yours. I was silent for a long time. And then I said, I am no longer yours, and you are not mine. We are just a story that no one wants to read again. Is this really the end? I don't know. Maybe someday we will sit down at the same table again. Maybe my daughter will remember me. Maybe everything can be brought back. But right now, I'm just living, sometimes without a mood, often with coffee, rarely with hope. But I live, only and the truth. Only God knows the truth. Or a lawyer who does not exist. If you listen to this and think that everything is lost, no, not yet. Because if you still feel, then all is not lost. even if you have been betrayed. Even if your brother became a TikTok star and your sister was silent when you needed to scream. Even if the lawyer turned out to be just a Facebook bot. The real answers are not in the courts. They are in how you feel. Hold on to it, because the truth is not what others will tell you. The truth is what you can't forget. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this. Maybe the next one will be about you. Thank you for listening, and take care of yourself, because sometimes it's all we have.